Ang karanasan ng Pilipinas, hindi siya ang pinakamagaling sa pagbawi ng ill-gotten wealth, pero siya rin yung nauna na sumubok bumawi ng ill-gotten wealth. Ibig sabihin yan, marami dapat tayong natutunan sa sarili nating karanasan. And I'm sure maraming natutunan ang ibang bansa sa karanasan ng Pilipinas. Alam ko yan dahil nung nasa PCGG ako din yung head ng Philippine Delegation Technical Committee dun sa pag-negotiate ng UN Convention Against Corruption.
Wow.
From basically 2001 to 2003 yung UN Convention Against Corruption naipasa ng ilang bansa. So maraming natuto sa Pilipinas, hindi lang dun sa domestic na ginawa ng PCGG, kundi pati dun sa paglilitis, paghahanap, pag-iimbestiga na ginawa ng PCGG at ng gobyerno, because kailangan gamitin ng PCGG yung buong machinery ng gobyerno sa paghahanap ng nakaw na yaman, unang-una ng pamilyang Marcos, pero hindi lang ng pamilyang Marcos, kundi pati yung mga Romualdez, yung mga kamag-anak, pati yung mga crony, si Eduardo Cojuangco, Lucio Tang.
Ay, gusto ko yung linawin kasi nabanggit mo mga Romualdez eh. So, dun sa, while investigating, malinaw ba yon? May mga paper trail linking yung pamilya ni dating Speaker Romualdez doon bilang kasabwat sa pagtatago ng kayamanan ng mga Marcoses. Kasi may nadinig akong interview niya na sinasabi niya na he's a self-made person. Hindi ko nga maintindihan eh. Ang galing naman yung self-made ko, ang mga pinamumunuan naman niya, puro crony companies, diba? Pero nagpapatawa siya, gusto niyang maging self-made, pagbigyan natin. Pero gusto kong madinig from you mismo yung direct link ng mga Romualdez dito sa hidden wealth ng mga Marcos.
Sasagutin ko, pero ang context ng sagot, dahil madali kasing baliktarin at baluktutin ng ilang tao yung pag nagsabi ka ng yes or no or nasagot. Yung PCGG tinayo 1986, no? Nasa college pa lang ako noon, estudyante pa lang ako noon. Hindi pa ako I think magsisimula pa lang ako sa law school, although nag-defer ako. Pumasok ako sa PCGG 2001, many decades later. So marami nang nangyari between 1986 to 2001. Pero konti lang yung nabawi in that entire stretch of time na direkta sa labas ng bansa, no, na maraming na sequester, na freeze sa Pilipinas. Madali nandyan lang eh. Uutusan mo lang yung korte, no? Uutusan mo lang yung machinery ng gobyerno, pero outside the country, that's more difficult. So, nung dumating ako sa PCGG, marami ng attempts hanapin ang pera, including ng pamilyang Romualdez, hindi lang ng pamilyang Marcos. Tandaan natin na ang tatay ni Martin Romualdez ay naging dating ambassador. Hindi lang siya ambassador sa isang bansa, no? Simultaneously he was ambassador of 2 other countries. I don't know how you do that, but and then at the same time, sabay-sabay siyang nagsweldo as ambassador, no? And that was the least of the criminal offenses. But he was actually charged with that because that was one of the easiest to charge him with, triple compensation.
Full-time, triple compensation for 3 full-time jobs.
Ambassador to the US at some point, ambassador to the UK at some point, ambassador to Saudi Arabia at some point. Sino ba si Benjamin Romualdez? The only qualification he had to be ambassador, to be a government official, was he was the brother of Imelda Marcos, kapatid ni Imelda. No? That family was not rich either nung nasa Leyte pa sila. No? May konting lupa. In fact, napupuntahan ko pa yung na-sequester na lupa nila, no? Doon sa likod ng Santo Niño Shrine. But in any case, in the entire time na hinahabol ng PCGG ang mga Marcos at mga crony kasama ang mga Romualdez, maraming frozen assets ang mga Romualdez. No? So, sa Pilipinas, what is now ano ba yung naging PCI Bank? So that bank, yung mga mining companies, Romualdez, take over ang si Benjamin Romualdez. He took over newspapers pagkadeklara ng martial law, kaya hindi na alam ng mga tao ito. There was something called the Daily Express, the Times Journal. Some of those newspapers are still alive today. Ang pinaka-importanting ginawa niya kasi, he took over the printing presses. So hindi ka makakapag-print ng newspaper without a printing press. He took over that. Mga general yung mga naging editor, nakatingin literally over the shoulders of journalists. So marami siyang tinake over ng mga negosyo. Meralco was one of the biggest that he took over. Kasama niya dyan ang mga Remulla sa pag-take over ng Meralco dahil kasama ang Cavite sa Meralco franchise. So pagkapasok ko sa PCGG, just siguro a year later, one of the earliest, well, not earliest, one of the cases that I had to look at was the Swiss bank accounts of the parents of Martin Romualdez, Benjamin and Juliet. I think nilipat nila sa pangalan ni Juliet, who was not a government official, who only died a few years ago. Meron pa ngang Supreme Court case sa Pilipinas involving Juliet dahil gusto nung mga Lopez, yung kinuhanan nila ng Meralco, na i-trace kay Juliet yung pamamaraan para makuha nila ang Meralco. Gusto ng mga abogado ng mga Lopez na mag-deposition. Pilitin si Juliet Romualdez, nanay ni Martin, na mag-testify. Matanda na siya eh. So ayaw ng mga abogado, matanda na daw, may sakit na. Hanggang namatay na lang and the case just died with her. There was at least $12 million in a Swiss bank account in the name of Benjamin and Juliet. Makikita mo doon sa bank records na mas malaki pa ito nung simula. Remember, this was in 2002. Ilang dekada na, palipat-lipat, patago-tago yung mga accounts na yan across not just Swiss banks but banks across Europe. But the fact that there was still 12 million left was frozen, but it was difficult to litigate because ang haba na nung panahon na dumaan, na ang hirap na nung paper trail. Yung tinatanong mo, Shelo, kung may paper trail ba? May paper trail to the accounts. Ito lang, bago ko, before I pause. Corruption does not necessarily and seldom leaves a paper trail. If you're going to be a good at corruption, you do not want to leave a paper trail. So yung nasanay kasi yung ibang Pilipino at siguro yung media na rin na parang kailangan meron kang papel na papakita na meron kang signature. No? These are things in the movies and these are things na minsan fictionalized accounts of corruption, but that's not exactly how it works.
But alam mo, just reading yung mga recent decisions sa mga nadidismiss in relation to the Napoles cases, parang ganun din eh. May mga witnesses, pero sasabihin ng korte, walang documents at saka paper trail to complement yung mga witnesses and therefore nadidismiss yung kaso. Kaya, babalik ako, yung just to complement what you're saying, no? Kung magagaling talaga tong mangurakot, walang paper trail kang makikita.
Yeah, but at the same time, on the side across the outside the country, no, let's say sa Switzerland, they have no choice but to have a paper trail.
Yeah.
Because they're bankers. No? Hindi sila yung nangungurakot, sila yung nagtatago ng kinurakot. So for their purposes, there has to be a paper trail, and that's how you go after it. No? Not in the Philippines. You don't go into the desk drawers of the DPWH secretary and hope that you can find a document that says, I stole 2 million. That's may signature siya. Wala yan. No? So, ganun ang mga Marcos na many of the documents were found in Switzerland. Some documents were found in Malacanang. No? May mga account, parang signature and all that. But remember, this was also long before the internet was invented. Long before digitalization happened. Long before you could transact banking, transactions you want to do in a matter of minutes. At that time, telegram, phone call. So, meron ka ding non-paper trails that you could still follow. Ngayon, it's actually both easier and harder. No? Technology allows it to be easier to steal and to hide, but it's also the same technology that allows you to just trace, freeze, and then recover.
Prof. Dan?
Well, I need a picture, no? Ano ba yung success rate ng PCTG when you were there? Tsaka gaano kalaki ba yung target? Yung na-imagine yung hinahabol?
Right. First of all, pag tinatanong ako magkano yan, yung tanong na yan, no, magkano ba yung tinatarget na habulin. Well, if I think if the PCGG people at the beginning knew that in the first place, then presumably it would be a little more easier to then identify what adds up to that amount. Pero ang target nila, just the same, was about $5 billion to $10 billion. Ang success rate depende sa pag-measure mo because maraming na-sequester, maraming nabawi na assets within the Philippines initially, and even up to now, no? San Miguel Corporation shares, PLDT shares, some Meralco shares. I was involved in the litigation in all of those cases, eventually recovered. So mataas, no? For every 1 peso yata na investment, if I'm not mistaken, at least 3 pesos was recovered. So if you multiply that in the billions, I think naka-recover na ang PCGG na something like $3 billion worth of assets. But remember, the bulk of that are domestic assets. So ang malalaking recoveries abroad, kasama dyan yung Marcos Swiss bank accounts, no? When I was in the PCGG, $680 million was recovered. Part of the $680 million, $200 million out of that, yun yung isa sa mga last kong ginawa sa PCGG. I drafted the bill to provide reparations for victims of the Marcos dictatorship using the 200 million. O kaya may batas tungkol dyan kasi may pondo para dyan.
At yung mga ibang pondo na yan, hindi pa nalalabas. I think a portion of that, supposedly, dapat nagpa-fund nung Martial Law Museum ng UP. Diba
Right.
na hanggang ngayon, hindi lumalabas.
Tanungin natin si Gigil Jimenez tungkol dyan because ang alam ko kasi may agreement si Chito Gascon when he was CHR chair at si Danny Concepcion to set it up there. Yung $10 million na allocation for the Marcos for the Martial Law Memorial, it's a separate section in the law I drafted. Yung 10 million was an initial fund, and then ang ginawa ni Chito, pinag-usapan namin yan, was to deposit it in an interest-bearing account. So yung design, yung contest, all of these pre-construction activities are funded by the interest on the 10 million. So yung 10 million itself is intact. Let's divide the types of assets into 4. No? Yung money, which might be abroad, which might be the Philippines, bank accounts, land and buildings, mostly in the Philippines. But remember, we recovered buildings in New York. No? Wala pa ako sa PCGG noon. Paintings and jewelry.
Hindi lang to unit ng condo, buildings, buong building.
Entire buildings in Manhattan on 5th Avenue. No?
Wow.
And then of course, lastly, yung corporate shares, no? Ownership ng corporation. So, yung forfeiture na panalunan na tumulong din ako sa paglilitis 2003 October 2003. Matagal na paglilitis yan. Buhay pa si Justice Francis Garchitorena sa Sandigan Bayan. And simple lang yung theory ng kaso. No? There's an existing law long before the Marcos dictatorship began na kapag yung ari-arian na inaangkin mo ay napakalaki ng diferensya sa sweldo mo bilang opisyal ng pamahalaan, may assumption na nakaw na yan. Babalik na rin ang burden of proof. Ikaw na ngayon ang magpapatunay na galing yan sa lehitimong paraan, yung assets mo. No? And that case was filed against the Marcos family, and what they did was not to answer. Akala nila pag iwas-iwas lang, time will allow them to keep the assets, no? Dahil iba't ibang presidente. Pero at some point, we forced the Supreme Court basically to rule on this question. Nag-testify pa nga si Bongbong Marcos sa Sandigan Bayan. No? Sinabi niya na nandun siya sa negotiations. He never denied that these assets were being claimed by them. And so eventually, the Supreme Court ruled in 2003, ang legitimate assets lang ni Ferdinand at Imelda ay something like $304,000. Galing sa sweldo nila bilang presidente at bilang governor of Metro Manila from 1969 to 1986.
Campaign, sabi ni Bongbong Marcos, victim daw sila ng fake news dahil wala naman daw talagang hidden wealth. No? So, that's a lie, right? Kaya nga, I mean, the fact naman ng success na recovery shows na meron talagang hidden wealth.
Nung kapapanalo lang niya, sabi nung NGO where I work, no, yung ICTJ, the National Center for Transitional Justice, pwede ba akong magsulat tungkol dyan kung anong mangyayari? So, ang una kong naisip yung title, no, na nung nanalo si Marcos, ang title ko is Marcos Jr. What Lies Ahead.
Nasaan na
Na-publish
yun?
ba yun?
Na-publish yun, yeah.
Okay, so meron. And then, earlier, when you started, you were talking about yung maraming natutunan sa ating experience yung ibang countries. And I presume lessons on how not to do it or
Yeah,
difficulty.
Or what to do. Especially,
Yeah, what to do.
nabanggit na yung isa that dapat hindi na ICI. But technically, if you look at the mandate of the ICI, it's all recommendatory. Recommending to the ombudsman. So essentially, parang dinagdagan mo lang ng isang layer. Pero tama ka, it's the institutions that are existing na dapat ma-empower at ma-demand din ng accountability to move forward. But aside from that, what should we be doing now? Kasi halimbawa, itong si Bonoan, ang dami nang lumabas na link sa kanya, including yung link niya sa isang construction company na ang may-ari anak niya, 'di ba? Wala nang kahihiyan eh. Ikaw yung DPWH secretary, yung contractor mo, anak mo, 'di ba?
Yeah.
But ito, nakalipad na. Tapos sinasabi si Zaldico na wala na yung 4 na helicopter, airplanes niya. What should we be doing to make sure na may ma-recover pa?
Well, the correct answer to that, Chelo, is a revolution.
Ayan
I keep telling her not to say that.
Yeah, the bureaucratic technical answer to that is, first of all, meron ng Anti-Money Laundering Council or commission in AMLC, but it's, they issue press releases when they attend seminars sponsored by the US Embassy on money laundering. And then from time to time, alam ko may press release about yung mga casino, yung mga
they seem
forex
to
traders.
forget to apply all the things they learned from these workshops.
Yeah, but halimbawa, nung nasa PCGG ako, I asked them to actually investigate payments made to Imelda Marcos by Tony Boy Cojuangco dahil ginive up ni Imelda yung claim nila sa PLDT, nagbayad si Tony Boy Cojuangco in cash sa Hong Kong with inside shoe boxes. And ang tumanggap, literal na tumanggap, is one of the lawyers of Imelda Marcos. So sabi ko, hindi na yan covered by confidentiality, no? Because tumatanggap yung abogado nung bribe, yung bayad, no? Pinapa-investiga ko yan sa Anti-Money Laundering Council. Naalala ko, bumirma si Heidi Yorak, no, dun sa letter that I drafted. They never responded. So it's that kind of institution where you have a token effort, no? Anti-money laundering, but these are just people who sit there, get paid so much, and then they go after little forex traders and casino operators. But if you freeze mo yung assets ni DPWH secretary, ni congressman so and so, ni senator this and that, you freeze it, you let them litigate against you. You let them take the effort to prove that these are not theirs or that these are acquired illegitimately. You use the power, the awesome power of government to clean itself up, and then let these people who messed it up prove that they were not responsible for that. And if they can't, you seize their assets. So,
kaso parang hindi nga yung nangyayari. Tama ka, no? Kasi ang tagal na na-set up ng Anti-Money Laundering Council. Tapos parang nagkakaroon lang sila ng aksyon kapag may scandal na nangyayari. Okay, alis go. Ang daming pera na ipinasok mula sa China, papasok ng Pilipinas, pero hindi na fa-flag. And I'm sure itong lahat ng transactions sa to milyon-milyon na nawi-withdraw in and out, ang may limit sila, 'di ba? 500,000 from abroad to the Philippines, dapat na-flag na. Pero parang walang nangyayari, tapos gagalaw lang sila kapag kami mga sumabog na scandal.
Right, and ang problema ngayon is that you're the president of the Philippines, has no moral ascendancy to tell these entities, to tell these institutions to do this. I mean, I see him make speeches about dapat maibalik yung nakaw na yaman. But what? Ano ba nangyari sa'yo?
Pero, a question ko dyan. So, may linkages din kasi. For example, so we have AMLC, but I'm hoping na from before to now, may mga international groups like the Financial Action Task Force monitoring our AMLC. And I know for the longest time, we are in that gray list. Kakatanggal lang sa atin, di ba? Tapos medyo nag-upgrade uli ata ng standard yung FATF. Baka babalik na naman tayo sa gray list. But how about that? Hindi pa rin ba nakakatulong yung mga international standards na yun in terms of making sure yung AMLAC natin is more or less functioning?
Nagpunta ako diyan sa sa office nila outside Paris, yung FATF, no. Nung nasa PCGG ako, so I had to deal with BNP Paribas. That's the biggest French bank and one of the account holders ni Marcos, which by the way, yung BNP Paribas is also one of the financiers nung giyera diyan sa Sudan, no, yung patayan sa Sudan. They allow both factions to purchase firearms, and then they allow them to sell oil abroad, transact. So anyway, yung FATF, I think it's an entity that is meant to make banking efficient and profitable for bankers. It is less an entity that will tell governments to hold their corrupt officials accountable. And if the government officials in the Philippines, for example, kapag na-realize na nila na hindi naman pala tungkol sa corruption ang mandato ng FATF, no, kundi terrorism, crime, corruption is a crime. There is no definition of corruption sa UN Convention Against Corruption. So all these things, while I understand na parang gusto natin tumingin sa labas din, no, for help, for some kind of guidance, for some neutral external force to come in, like God, and say, I'll take these evil people out. These are not really the people who see their functions that way.